Hey, white people, we need to talk. I'm Luna. Welcome to the Lunarium. When I started this channel 2 whole weeks ago, I thought I would focus on topics relating to mental health that I was most familiar with. I was planning on eventually branching out to topics relating to mental health that I was less familiar with as time went on, but generally, I had a relatively narrow focus and scope for my channel. And then last week happened. But you know what? This does have to do with mental health because I am depressed and furious and disgusted by the state of our country. I can only imagine how people of color, let alone Black Americans, are feeling right now. Every incident of police attacking or killing people of color is triggering and traumatizing and deserves to be treated as a major mental health concern. For years, I felt immobilized by the scope of the problem and my own mental health challenges. But I'm sick of doing nothing. Everyone needs to stand up and demand justice. Things need to change. For those who somehow don't know, protests for racial equality sprung up again last week after video surfaced of Jacob Blake being shot in the back 7 times by police in Kenosha, Wisconsin. 3 of his children were in the car mere feet away from their father when he was shot. The family's lawyer says Blake is now paralyzed from the waist down. Thankfully, Blake is no longer shackled to his hospital bed, which he was for days, for reasons I would explain to you if there were any. I say protests sprang up again, but in some places like Portland, protests have been ongoing since the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor in June. Remember June? That time that in COVID days feels like it was 6 years ago? When your social media was full of people blacking out their feed and posting that they were listening? I'm sure you know this, but we didn't fix anything then, and everyone needs to be listening. The situation in Kenosha grew even more dangerous late Tuesday when Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old who crossed state lines with a rifle to attend the Kenosha protests, allegedly shot 3 people, killing 2. And the way that these 2 situations were reported on and then covered on social media makes my blood absolutely boil. Soon after news of Jacob Blake being shot surfaced, reports came out saying that Blake was brandishing a knife and that he had a criminal record. As if any of that justifies police shooting him in the back from close enough range that they were holding on to his shirt. Soon after the vigilante shooting in Kenosha, however, reports such as the New York Post posted pictures of Rittenhouse cleaning up graffiti in Kenosha. The Times, in a now deleted tweet, described Rittenhouse as a bullied teenager who revered the police and found purpose as a vigilante. The right-wing pundits got to work portraying Rittenhouse as a golden boy, from Tucker Carlson saying on national TV, "How shocked are we that 17-year-olds with rifles felt the need to restore order when no one else would," to Ann Coulter tweeting that she wished he were her president. President of the United States. A teenager accused of murder. I mean, I know our standards for president are pretty low these days, but come the fuck on. It doesn't matter if before he, and I'm trying to remember libel laws here, allegedly shot 3 people, Rittenhouse helped perform acts of community service. It doesn't matter if he was bullied. Stories like these run rampant whenever white people are accused of violent crimes. After the Columbine massacre, Harris and Klebold were portrayed as loners who perpetrated the shootings out of a desire for revenge against those who had bullied them. In the 2 decades since Columbine, America has lived with the reality that at any moment, young, angry white men can kill innocents at any time. And this knowledge, this distinctly American reality, is so hard to endure. Because why would someone do that? What could make someone want to kill multiple strangers and acquaintances, many of them children? How can you keep yourself and your children safe from a threat that could happen at any time without any recognizable warning or cause? It's so hard to cope with a threat that you can't understand. It must be because they're mentally ill, the talking point that always gets brought up after shootings to distract from conversations about gun control, or it's because they were hurt so badly that they felt the need to hurt others. But according to the Washington Post, Harris and Klebold weren't loners and were just as often the perpetrators of bullying as the victims. Even so, the initial stories about Columbine have entered our cultural mythos, and Columbine has served as an inspiration both for future shooters and for how the media portrays acts of white violence. It's almost like in the face of unthinkable tragedy, white society feels the need to explain what is unexplainable, because without an explanation, there's no sense of control. This kind of distorting facts to fit preconceived, more comforting visions of reality is on display whenever people of color are victims of police brutality. If the victim has a criminal record, that record is publicized widely, and anything about their behavior that could be deemed suspicious is used as a justification, from being in a backyard to carrying a toy gun to wearing a fucking hoodie. Reports of police violence against Black people are always met with white voices suggesting that the victims are responsible for being accosted by the police. Why were the police called on this person in the first place? They must have been doing something wrong. Why didn't the person just comply with police demands? Why were they resisting arrest if they had nothing to hide? Basically, many white people seem to be unable to believe that police as a whole, and not just individual officers, could behave in ways that are unjust. Because white people, our system, our society was built to benefit us. Many people who look like me, especially people who are middle or upper class, have very little reason to believe that the police will ever behave unjustly towards them, because often white people hold all the wealth, and police mainly exist to protect property and money. Our modern system of policing was born out of slave patrols and xenophobia. If you want more history, check out the podcast miniseries Behind the Police with Robert Evans. He does an amazing job. But basically, from the time you were in elementary school and a cop showed up with a German Shepherd and gave you a sticker, to all the episodes of Law and Order or Criminal Minds that you've watched, you've been raised to believe that police are necessary tools of justice helping ensure a peaceful society. Even into adulthood, you've continued to believe that police are the answer to danger or civil unrest, especially if you've had any positive experiences with individual police officers. This is because your existence doesn't threaten the hegemonic ideals of Americanness that have become ingrained into our society. This is because of your privilege. Racism is so embedded into our laws, cultural practices, and even our sense of national identity that many white people don't realize that they're benefiting from an unjust system. Many of the people who respond to incidents of police brutality with knee-jerk defenses of the police probably wouldn't be comfortable having their behavior described as racist. I truly believe that most white Americans believe racism is wrong. Many of them probably aren't comfortable using the N-word and don't harbor any conscious ill will towards people of other races. It doesn't matter. Our behavior, our compliance with the status quo, is helping perpetuate a racist system. It isn't enough to be not racist. You need to be anti-racist. In order for things to change, any white person who wants to be on the right side of history needs to take an active role in being part of the solution. But what does that actually look like? Here are some steps you can take. Research. Read about the history of race in America. Look into the 1619 Project. Google anti-racist reading lists. Look at multiple articles about specific incidences and not just one article from one source or snippets passed around on social media. Push back against racism, whether that's within yourself or within your community. Challenge any racist comments that you hear, no matter who they come from, whether it's your grandparents, your colleagues, or an acquaintance on social media. Microaggressions are still aggressions, and if left unchecked, they spread ignorance and bigotry. Listen to minority voices. Amplify their messages when it would be helpful, but when in doubt, take a step back and let Black and brown people speak for themselves. Don't be a white savior, be an ally. Participate in organizations and fundraisers. Donate your time or money, if you have any to spare, to legal defenses, independent journalism, Black Lives Matter, the NAACP, the ACLU, or any other group helping to fight systemic racism. Protest. Remember, there are lots of different ways to protest, even if you don't feel safe or able to march through the streets. You can boycott businesses who are supporting police over Black lives. You can donate necessary supplies such as water or masks. You can organize or be a point of contact through social media. Also, remember that when protests occur, try to focus on why people are protesting instead of how people are protesting. Remember that kneeling during the national anthem was considered objectionable, even though that's basically the definition of a peaceful protest. Remember that Minneapolis is considering overhauling their police system only after buildings were burnt to the ground. Do not tell people of color, especially Black people of color, how they should stand up to injustice. You have not lived their life, and you do not know what has led them to this point. Worry about your own people, your white friends and family, colleagues and neighbors. Worry about how they're behaving and let people of color make their own choices. Have empathy. Remember that your lived experience is not universal experience. Try to imagine what other people have been going through for generations. You are no longer a toddler and you have mastered object permanence. Just because you don't see racism doesn't mean racism doesn't exist. Assume that other people can know more than you do. It's Occam's razor. If a lot of people are saying that racism exists, the most likely explanation is that racism exists. Just be quiet sometimes. Your take isn't always needed. Step back and listen to other people, especially if they come from different communities or backgrounds than you. Never quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Just don't do it. Basically, every time a white person quotes MLK, they're using quotes taken out of context in order to shame or try to control Black activists. Seriously, just don't do it. Vote. Vote in every election, from presidential races to local school boards or districts. If no one is running who supports causes that you believe in, run for elected office or join a commission or committee. Push for representation in your elected officials and your industry. Remember that heterogeneity helps foster creativity and progress. Communicate with your elected officials. You can write them letters, you can call their offices, you can even communicate with them on social media. A lot of elected officials are on Twitter now, so you can call them out in a public forum and demand that they defend Black lives. Never assume that other people will figure problems out or that a situation is handled. Look for ways that you can help. Take care of your own mental health. It's the airplane rule. You have to secure your own air mask before you can secure someone else's. Your mental health is a valuable resource that you need to maintain in order to keep fighting this fight. Sometimes, you're going to need to take a step back and ignore the news and social media and just focus on your mental health. That's okay, but it needs to be a break and not a pattern of avoidance. Don't let the scope of the problem overwhelm you into apathy or resistance. Don't trust our government to stand up for what's right, especially with our current administration, but also with every administration. Be vigilant no matter who's in office. Lack of oversight is a recipe for corruption and tyranny. Pay attention. Pay attention to the news. Pay attention to your surroundings. Defend Black and brown members of your community. Appoint yourself the position of observer anytime you see police interacting with people of color. Your white presence can be an important deterrence to police misconduct, especially if you pull out your phone. Confront your privilege. I probably should do a whole different video on this one, but for now, I'll just say that it is every person's responsibility to look inward and recognize their own privilege and the way it's impacted their life. Remember that privilege doesn't mean your life hasn't been hard. It just means that your privilege, in this case your race, hasn't made your life harder. Turn your inevitable feelings of guilt, anger, and defensiveness into a desire to be part of the solution. Respond to callouts with grace. Remember that if a person tells you that your behavior is seen as ignorant or racist, it's because they think that you are worth teaching. Thank them and then learn from your mistakes. Don't expect Black and brown people to teach you. Emotional labor is still labor. If they are willing to teach you, thank and pay them. Support Black and brown creators and businesses. This is by no means an exhaustive list. If you have additional steps that people can take, please write them in the comments down below. Things are getting really dangerous in our country. Please stay safe. Take care of yourself and take care of your community. Until next time, bye.